if you can catch that person right when you kind of get a sense for when they're having those conversations before they've actually done the price drop on the MLS, where you can get in there and kind of like they were talking about dropping it from 600 to 550. I'll just go with that. And then you just come in with your 525 and it's like, oh, okay, we can do that. Sometimes you can time it just right, but you got to keep that communication going.
We officially have 30-year mortgage rates for home buyers over 7%. Shoot, investors could be at or near 8%. I want to ask Beth Traverso, a top 1% agent in the country, what does this mean for the housing market potentially in 2025? I suspect it will be easier to buy and harder to sell. But heck, what do I know? I'm not in the business. Let's talk to Beth Traverso. How you doing, Beth?
Hi, I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks so much for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. I love to be here. Again, folks, if we rewind the clock about 3 weeks ago, we're talking about rates near 6. You could buy it down to nearly 5.5. And now we're over 7.
So there's a lot of people banging their head against the wall, a lot of people changing their predictions for the coming year. It just goes to show you that nobody really knows what's going to happen because everybody was putting forward their predictions for 2025 and what they thought was going to happen with the market and making plans based on that. And this just goes to show us that even if the Fed is cutting rates, that doesn't directly correlate to mortgage interest rates. Things are changing. I admit I've been just feeling a little bit, I don't know, kicked in the gut a little bit. Yeah, because we had this back and forth. And as a real estate professional, we've been slogging along for a while now for 2+ years now with these rates. And, we're doing well. I'm doing well, but it's been tough. I'm not going to lie for everybody. And it's a part of this industry. And there was this glimmer of hope out there. And now it's kind of like,
gone.
As soon as you hope for that one thing, then it just whips around the other way, which goes to show we have to always be adaptable and quick to adjust and pivot.
You're so right. I mean, I really feel for the mortgage guys. The mortgage guys have been really rolled over. They had this little refi boom going on. I saw a meme the other day. It was like refi boom, like what would it be? September 15th to August 5th or something like that. Rest in peace. It was only 3 weeks.
I know. And here's the thing too, is we don't know what could happen in a month. Things could happen. Other things could happen that will change things. It just goes to show that it's always adjusting and pivoting and twisting and turning, and you can never be complacent in real estate or business. And you have to be ready to adapt to anything. And I think for real estate professionals, we just got to learn to run lean. So just like we've been doing all this time. So, that it's not the time to let off your guard a little bit and go back to the old ways. Like, no, we have to stay honed. We have to stay focused. We have to provide, continue to provide the value. So, and think about your branding and how you're putting yourself out there to the world out there, the buyers and sellers. And I think as far as real estate agents, those that show that they can provide value, like, I am working in this market and helping people succeed. Here's how I do it. Or ask me how you can do it. Those are the ones that are going to do well. But we were starting to see just a little hint of maybe the move up buyer seller might start to stick their toe in the water and come back.
Exactly.
And now we're not seeing that anymore. So, and I don't know if it's because of that or because of the election next week or any number of things.
It's all rate. The move up buyer is 100% rate. You start to get interesting at 5.5. It won't be a lot, but it will be some. It gets really interesting sub 5, but they are just in hibernation at 7. There's no reason to sell a home when you have a 3 to get a 7.
Yeah.
There's no reason. You go buy bunk beds. You just go do something else. And you go, we'll wait for a better day.
And selling now are still the folks who are compelled by life circumstances. That's still who's coming to me that I see. So the people with life circumstances, the people who There are still cash buyers out there who don't care about rate. There's
Yeah,
more of those
yeah,
than people maybe realize, but
yeah, yeah.
um,
20, I think it was 18 or 20% of all transactions, according to NAR last month, were cash. Lots of
yeah,
cash.
it's a lot of cash out there, and a lot of these people are equity. That's where they're getting their cash from, is their equity.
Yep.
So a lot, not all of them, but a lot. Some are selling stocks. Some it could be any number of things, but a lot of them are selling a home, taking that equity to buy another home. And if they're putting a lot of money down, it doesn't matter as much what the rate is, or if they're paying cash, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Investors out there, we just need to look at making sure that we are making offers that make sense for what the rate is now, and not trying to predict about what may happen next year and making offers based upon that, or thinking, oh, we can refi next year. And you might be able to refi next year, but you have to be able to make sure that numbers are working for you
Yeah.
today, because we don't know. It went up to 8, and then it went to 6, and then out to 7, and it's all over the place. So
Well said.
you
Well
want to make
said.
sure that you're not stuck in a tough spot where heaven forbid you have an alligator or negative cash flow that you're trying to ride it out for a certain
Yeah.
amount of time until X happens. That's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to 2025 in a minute. I'd love to just hear about your business. This whipsaw has been amazing. We went to 6 to 7 in under a month. I'm curious, where, if at all, did you see the impact? Did you see impact less sellers? Did you see less buyers? Did you see anybody pull back? What happened in the last 3 or 4
Yeah.
weeks?
So, in which time frame are we talking
The
about
last
here?
month. The last
Yeah.
month.
So in the last month, the people that are listing now, they've had that process. Those wheels have been in motion for a while.
Okay.
So they've been planning this for a while because of fill in the blank compelling reason in their life why they need to sell. And they're asking me, it's funny, I haven't been hearing many people asking specifically about the rate more than about seasonality. Is it
Mm.
better to sell now or wait until next year? Is the question I'm getting. So people trying to
And when
time,
people say next year, they mean like February, March.
yeah, January in our area,
Okay.
because that's when things start to pop
Okay.
traditionally.
So
Yeah.
that's like 10 weeks away, right? So
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah.
reasonable. What are you
So
telling me?
well, it's specific to their situation. Our inventory is still very, very low. So what I've been seeing, I watch my buy box inventory every week, every day really, but every week I see how many the last 7 days, how many listings came on the market and how many went pending.
Mm.
And I still saw about 20-30% more in my area went pending than came active. So our inventory is dwindling down.
Wow.
And part of that's because that's what always happens this time of year. But
Hmm.
it's being absorbed is the interesting thing. We had a surge in September, and that kind of coincided with a little bit of this rate step. So we had the summer was over, people were refocusing for fall. Inventory came on the market, it got snatched up pretty quickly. Now it's just going down, down, down. And typically what we see is the inventory continues to go down to where it reaches its trough in December.
Mm.
And then it starts to creep up starting in January. So it's funny
Yeah.
how the seasonality hasn't changed regardless of the rates. It's just the number of transactions has changed. We're still down 20 to 30%. And it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. So it feels like we are going to have another low inventory, low supply, low demand. If there's fewer buyers, but there's also fewer sellers out there too, just like we've been talking about.
Yeah. Until we turn on the move up buyer, the housing market's just flat out broken. You're
Hmm.
always going to have some people who need to sell, and you're always going to have some cash buyers, which means you're going to do some transactions, but it's not going to be anything amazing. That's
Yeah.
just where we are for the foreseeable future. Well, let's talk about 2025. I am really starting to. So, first off, I was not one of those people that had these crazy low mortgage rates in 2025. I always thought that was crazy and said so.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I didn't have a 7 handle on
No.
mortgage rates. Um, but I actually do believe that we may average 7% for
Mhm.
2025. So again, not a certainty by any stretch, just one guy's guess. I just want to play a what if game with you.
Yeah.
If we just pencil in 7%, 30-year mortgage, ORaaT, 20% down, best credit, no points for all of 2025, my gut says we're in a buyer's market. My gut says it's easier to find motivated sellers. The longer we're at 7%, the easier it gets to find motivated sellers. Because, right, if it's only there for a week or two, it doesn't matter. Rates are all over the place. But if we are truly at 7% for all of 2025, it's going to be easier to be a buyer than a seller. It's going to be, you'll get more creative financing opportunities because the only thing you're going to have is people who need to sell. That's all you're going to have. Anybody who needs to sell will sell at 7. If you want to sell, you're just not going to do it. You'll wait for better days. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as a buyer, it's important to ask, or buyer's agent, it's important to ask, why is the seller selling? Now, sometimes as a listing agent, we don't like those questions, but sometimes you can get some good insight into like, tell me about the seller's plans and what
Mm-hmm.
they're looking to accomplish. And they might say, well, they've moved out of state or got a job transfer, or you might see it's an estate sale or something like that, where it needs to be sold to settle in a state. Every once in a while, people share more, like, they're getting a divorce or something like that. But
Yep.
things that it will indicate the motivation, and you can get an idea of what they're looking to do. So you can kind of test the waters of, is this person going to be motivated or not? What's the activity been like on it? Have they received offers?
Yeah.
And there will be. So even what we saw when rates were higher before was that even if it was a newer listing, we're seeing people were coming straight in with the aggressive offers. Some might call them disrespectful, but the ones that are asking for everything,
Mhm.
right out of the chute.
Yeah.
And you're not usually going to get it right out of the chute. You got to wait a little while.
No.
You got to let it see, like, put yourself in the seller's shoes. Like, wouldn't they see if they can get 5% less before they go to 20% less? Like, you got to at least it's a
Yeah.
process to get to that point. And you,
No,
instead of
no,
just
no
better,
question.
you got to follow up and stick with them. They may get to that point,
No,
but
that's the key of a motivated seller is you're never going to accept my first offer, but you're going to know where I plant the flag, and then I'm going to
yeah.
follow up every 7 to 10 days, and either A, you're going to take it off the market, B, you're going to sell to someone else, or C, you'll eventually sell it to me. But yeah, it's a process. It's follow up. It takes time.
Yes, and
No,
it's
no
knowing
question.
your market too. You got to know which are the types of properties that are hanging on the market a little longer, and which are the ones that are still flying off the shelf. And so there's going to be, in my area and probably every area, is going to be some of these ones that are just high demand, always going to be popular. People are going to snatch them up.
Hmm.
In those cases, maybe you just wait and see if somebody does some of the other mistakes with the listing, where maybe it's not presented well or it's
Right.
overpriced, etc. But it's about asking the questions and doing the homework to kind of burrow
Yeah.
in and figure out who are the ones that really do need to sell. And I think we're going to see, if we do stay at 7%, we're going to see more of that, just more of the same going into the new
Yeah.
year. And it's going to continue along that track where you have to work a little harder as a seller to sell your home, and as a buyer you might have more opportunity. Yeah. So
Oh,
will you
no question.
pay more? Yeah, you will in some ways, but if you can get your purchase price down or better terms, sometimes it's better to have that than a lower rate. If you think
Yep.
about it, especially if there's less competition. If rates were to stay in the low sixes or even go into the fives, I would have anticipated that we'd have a very highly competitive
Yeah.
uh, first part of 2025, at least.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think what the average investor should do in their buy box is watch days on market, watch inventory levels, because I think these are the things that grow. If we stay at 7% mortgage rates, days on market at the end of December versus January, it could be a double, right? We might
Hmm.
roll into 2025 at say 24 days on market. We could be at 40 days on market by the end of the year. Because again, that's just is going to what transpires. I guess last question, again, as a 1% agent, is in your market, again, very market, probably even very price point specific. But when does a listing agent and their seller start talking about a price drop? Are we 10 days in, 3 weeks in, 60 days? When does that first uncomfortable conversation happen?
Okay, so before we even go on the market, I educate my sellers that if we're going to get over list price, it's going to happen within the first 7 days. And there's
Hmm.
things we do to prepare for that potentially. If you're going to get list price, that would happen between 7 to 14 days.
Okay.
And after 14 days, it's time to think about a price reduction. And it's
Okay.
going to
There you
vary,
go.
if you, that's
Yeah.
the general guidelines, but if it's gonna if my I have different indicators where I know if my phone is ringing, we're getting showing scheduled, and people are asking me for inspection reports. Then I know those are three things that I know. Okay, we're in the zone. Maybe we don't need to do a price reduction, but just know. And
Yeah.
I know if I'm not getting those things that something is not equating, and the lever to pull if everything else is good is the price. So there
Yeah.
just needs to be expectations set about that from the outset.
And again, folks, if we're in a market where it's a buyer's market and it's easier to buy, this is the data you need. I would not write a disrespectful, aka aggressive offer on anything less than 21 days, given what Beth highlighted. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to this, that. Go for the ones where you have an increased chance of finding motivation. And to be clear, there will be some people, even if we go to 30 days, they will not entertain the offer. They're what I call want to sell. They're, hey, if we can sell it for X, we'll sell. If not, we'll just stay put. Your job is to go figure out who those are and then go
Mhm.
figure out who needs to sell. This is a game. This is a process. This is where real wealth is built, buying stuff at a discount.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's waiting for those right opportunities and knowing how to recognize it when you see it, and then knowing how to take action on it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things to think about too is like, say somebody has a house listed at 600,000, you want to pay 525 for it. Let's say it might become the jump from 600 to 525 is kind of big. But when
Yeah.
somebody drops down to 575, all of a sudden it's still kind of big. But then you wait, it gets to 555. Then once it gets down to that amount, then it's not as big of a psychological leap. It's a big psychological leap from 600 to 525, but not from say 550 to 525.
Yeah, folks, again, put it on your calendar. Follow up once a week, once every 10 days. Just say, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. That selling agent and that seller, they will have increasingly honest discussions, probably
Yeah.
uncomfortable discussions.
Mhm.
If they know you're still lurking, you could get the phone call and say, hey, are you still interested? I told my seller about you. They're not
Mhm.
very happy, but they want
Yeah.
to talk about it. Can we write it up? Those are the conversations you want. Most people watching this can do one deal a year. Make it a great deal. Do the work, right, Beth?
100%.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah. So
If
one
someone,
other thing too is if people sorry, if you can catch that person right when you kind of get a sense for when they're having those conversations before they've actually done the price drop on the MLS, where you can get in there and kind of like they already were talking about dropping it from 600 to 550. I'll just go with that. And then you just come
Mhm.
in with your 525 and it's like, oh, okay, we can do that. Sometimes you can
Yeah.
time it just right, but you got to keep that communication going
Yeah.
with the listing agent. So
You got to do the work, folks.
deals
This
are
is
out
not
there.
easy.
There's no way to escape doing the work. You just got to do it. But that's where the riches are. So
Absolutely.
keep it
Folks,
up.
we're going to keep encouraging people. Join our school community, a measly 67 cents a day. Beth Traverso is in it and does respond to
On there.
questions and all of that. But she
Yeah.
does have an amazing website, bethtraversogroup.com. If you want to
Can always
work with
find me
her,
on there.
yeah,
Mhm.
if you want to work with her in King County, or better yet, most of you want and need a top 1% agent. If you haven't reached out to Beth to get a referral to a top 1% agent, you are truly missing out. And school community, send Beth a message in school. Ask for a referral to a top 1% agent in your market. She will
Yeah.
take care of you.
I get all
Close,
those messages. Thank you.
yeah,
It's always
closing
fun.
thoughts?
No, that's it. I'm excited for to see what comes next because it's always different in the market, and that's what I love about real estate is you can never get too comfortable because it's going to change, and I personally enjoy that. We don't want it to all be the same all the time, so you just got to find the opportunities with what's given to you. They're out there.
Amen. Beth, you're amazing. Take care. Again,
Thank
send her a
you.
note to school. Bye.
Bye.